and will respond in due course. A spokesperson for Trump did not immediately respond to request for comment. George Conway is still with us. What is the significance of this filing, George, and will these documents ever see the light of day?
Well, it's a highly significant filing. But what happened here was Eastman is making the argument that these documents should be produced because of attorney-client privilege. And for a lot of reasons, he wasn't an attorney, and a lot of boring reasons I won't get into. But the judge asked another question, apparently. The judge asked, well, what about the crime-fraud exception to the attorney-client privilege? And the question is, even if the guy's an attorney, was he being used to commit a fraud? And that was a good question, and the January 6th committee says, yes, well, we actually have evidence of that. And here's our brief, and they laid it out. The possible criminal offenses that Donald Trump and Eastman and others committed. And the focus is rightly and justly on 18 U.S.C., United States Code 371, which prohibits frauds, conspiracies to defraud the United States. And the language in that statutory provision is extremely broad. It says defraud the United States in any manner, for any purpose. And what that means is it doesn't just have to involve money. And when you think about it, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, if a president of the United States or anybody defrauded the U.S. government of $1 billion, they'd go to jail. They'd be prosecuted. If they did it even for $1 million, they'd go to jail. They'd be prosecuted. And, this is a lot worse than that because, the government wouldn't miss $1 million, probably wouldn't miss $1 billion. But what Donald Trump and his people, his minions, tried to steal here was our democracy, our very ability to engage in self-governance. And there's a, 1930s case by Chief Justice Taft that basically says that, all you have to do is to conspire by fraud and deceit to obstruct a legitimate function of government. And that's exactly what they were trying to do here.
So, George, as you say, attorney-client privilege goes out the window if in the course of talking to your client you are committing a crime, and that's what they're hoping to let the court know here. Obviously, this January 6th committee continues its work. It has no ability to initiate criminal prosecutions, of course, but does this new information tell you that at some point along the way, this laundry list of witnesses, this laundry list of participants that the January 6th committee is looking at may face criminal charges?
Yes, because this statute, it says what it says, but the problem for Trump and Eastman and others, and Eastman have had to plead the fifth 146 times at his deposition before the January 6th committee. The problem for them is that the evidence is piling up and mounting, and it fits these statutes like a glove. I mean, the real issue is, were they intending to deceive anybody? Did they know they were deceiving people? Well, the brief goes through all the different ways that Donald Trump had to have known, and Eastman had to have known that he was committing a fraud. He was told by the Department of Homeland Security, by the Cybersecurity Agency, that there was no fraud. He was told by the Justice Department repeatedly, by his own Attorney General, Bill Barr, and then repeatedly by the person who succeeded Barr as acting Attorney General, Rosen, and by Donahue, the acting Deputy Attorney General. Over and over again, there was no basis to overturn the election. He was told it by the White House counsel. He was told that by his own campaign aides. There was a campaign memo that said it. Jason Miller apparently testified before the January 6th committee and said he told President Trump that, there was no there. Raffensperger, the Secretary of State of Georgia, Trump had a conversation with him, and Raffensperger explained there's no basis for us to find you 11,000 votes. Over and over. And that doesn't even include all of the evidence. There's going to be more evidence. There's already, reporting out there that Trump was telling his aides, and I know for a fact this to be true, that he was saying, how could I have lost to this guy? How could I have lost? Which means he knew he lost, which means he knew he was engaging in a fraud and knew he was engaging in a deceit. And the fact that he was trying to obstruct the lawful function of the United States government puts this squarely under the scope of 18 U.S.C. Section 371. And at this point, I just don't see how the Justice Department can pass on this.